Calcutta. I reside in Bhawanipur, and it's just an interview about my father's personal experience and how we've come across this company, Design Redefine, and the CEO, Mr. Hussain. So going back to 2016, we had a false ceiling work going on, and we were not very, we were actually very confused about inducting an interior or not, since we had a few people on our team with a conflict of interest. So we were confused, and we weren't in a very good state of completion of the work that was happening without knowing what's happening next. So this false ceiling guy makes gives us an introduction to Hussain Bhai, Hussain Kanchwala to be precise, and that's how we met Hussain Bhai, and he actually changed the mood and changed the whole idea of the way we were looking at things from what and where we were and where we stood by with an inexperienced set of a team for interiors. So he came in and he literally gave us and took lesser time than usually what people would take to give us a project, or the costs that were involved. Those were very familiarly, relevantly lesser than other interiors. So we were really impressed, and that was how our first impression on this company was a very good outlook to it. So as I mentioned earlier, that's how we were introduced to Mr. Kanchwala. And after getting introduced to him, it wasn't just work related, but we had mixed opinions, as we had a big team looking after the restaurant and the club. So we met Mr. Kanchwala around 2016, and we were still in two minds whether to hire the person, because he was a young guy who sounded very good, but at times it sounded like it was too good to be true. So to actually go ahead with him, we were a little indecisive, but since he had made things sound so easy, and his budgets and his price quotes were so efficiently, relevantly low compared to whatever anyone else would charge, which was very honest and transparent of him first, and second, the time that he was taking compared to other people in the market was relevantly lesser and very convenient for us, because we were on a time crunch of we had a deadline. So supposedly, if I would not take names, but if I were to compare him with another person where something would have costed me 14 days, he'd give it to me within a week, maybe in 2 days. So that was very impressive, and that's something that really got us along, and because he respected a person's time, and that's how it all crafted us, and that's how we also respected his time. So that was one of the points that we really got along with, and knowing him on a personal level also as a human being. So we got to know how principally strong he was, and yeah, it was a great experience knowing him, and it was just upward and good after that. So once we got to know each other, and we became very close as friends. So he was really transparent and open about the costs involved, keeping his profession in mind and respecting his profession. I wouldn't want to take advantage of how transparent he was. So he was very transparent about how things work and how are they sourced, and what are the qualities, and what are the types of materials that are involved in making a room or a restaurant or coming up with an interior of a project. So financially, we were very happy with comparing his prices with others, and there was no second thoughts after the 3D images or the 3D videos, or after how the imaginary idea of how things would look like from what things were. We were really happy about how Hussain Bhai got along and made connections with people around him also, and in terms of the laborers he worked with, and in terms of his own temperament with having a prompt answer, with keeping his mood in a good state of mind, and always being very uplifted with his answers. So that was very important, because we were we were not very hopeful about how things would end when we were doing things on our own. It was just the right decision, I think, getting him on board and getting to know how things actually work, because we had a very different idea of what things would look like than what things were looking like after he was on board. We were actually happy about the decision. It was like a farishta who came into problems and was trying to help us out, because we were all very happy about it. and things started working in the right direction, and we felt like things were going to complete and before the deadline. So because we had a deadline of around 65 days, that's around 2 months if I'm not wrong. But by the way it was looking in, before Hussain Bhai and the company came in and was started to help us, it looked like we won't complete it not even in 90 days. So, and that was very hard for us to imagine, because we had to start the place, and we had deadlines to meet. So I remember during the midst of these 2 months, Hussain Bhai had a very auspicious 10 days to be trespassed, and I think that was during Muharram. That was during Muharram. So I remember Hussain Bhai being very sticking very core to his principle, and not working on those 10 days. So that also gave me an insight of how he is to his religion, and how close he is to his religion, and doesn't let anything affect his relationship with his God. So that's something that I learned something from as well, and that's something that's a very a big difference in a person's behavior, or any individual should learn from, because not everything is at the end of the day money, or not everything is your profession when it comes to having faith in your God and having your own relationship with your own God. So that's something really nice of Hussain Bhai to not work on those 10 days, no matter what the problem was. But he did keep in touch, but he wasn't completely there, because he had to prioritize his function of Muharram. He completed his deadline, which wasn't looking like it. And since Hussain Bhai assured us and told us that this is happening for a good reason and things will end well, so we just trusted his word and we went ahead. And he did what he said. At the end of the day, he delivered to what he said, and it was just a matter of a week that it got extended to, compared to what other interiors were telling us, and it was looking like it's going to take 6 months. But it did end well, and we did end up cutting our ribbon and inaugurating the place not very after our actual deadline. So we had an extra 5-7 days in hand. So this really ended well, and the way it turned on how we looked at Hussain Bhai's work and his company's work after that was completely a class apart than what we thought it would be like, because it was just very randomly how we met, and it was just via a third person who we didn't even know of. He very, very casually called Hussain Bhai to the premises and the project we were working on, and my dad and his partners were very indecisive whether to keep him or not, as his age was being a factor. He was a very young guy who was sounding very nice, as I mentioned earlier. So, but it really did end well, and it wasn't the age of the person, it was the work speaking for itself, and we were all very happy. And we started recommending him and his company to other people. So it became a very close and an informal relation than to how it started. So we're very happy with his work, and it's just upwards from there, as I mentioned earlier. After which we had another project, and my dad wanted to redo the whole house. So we didn't have a second thought after that. We had to go ahead with design Redefine. Mr. Hussain was the only person we could trust after that. As if it was not just a professional and a colleague kind of a relationship, it was more like a friend to friend, or a person who understands, points and aspects you have to keep in mind when you want to do something like this. Like maybe it's your budget, it's your style, it's how much you want to spend, and it's what you get out of your budget. So keeping all those things in mind, very technically and practically and very honestly, Hussain Bhai used to guide us, and I'm sure he used to guide other clients as well. As this industry and this line, as far as I know, is not a very transparent line. Like interior decorators, again I wouldn't name them, but aren't very transparent about how things would end to how it start, and they're not very efficient with the time they take also. It's always delayed to what they've not promised or not committed to. So these things were very different with how Hussain Bhai did his work and his company did his work, and we were very impressed by, we consider ourselves pretty lucky to meet the person and come across such a company. So we did take the decision to get a house done and change the interiors of the house and redo the whole house, which was again a beautiful experience. And my dad isn't present today to be in the interview because he's a little busy with his work. But speaking on his behalf, we've just been full of praises after the house was done. And especially my room, my personal experience in my room is, I feel like that's the best spot in the house. I really like, I started liking staying home after the house was redone. And we were in a situation where, again, we didn't have Hussain Bhai as a first option, and we had another interior who had started working and done 20% of the work. But again, I think Hussain Bhai did a good change over here. The position and the mindset that we were in, and the struggles we were having with understanding what the interior earlier or before Hussain Bhai was trying to, make the house look like, to what Hussain Bhai made the house look like, was completely different. I just wish I could show you photographs or videos. I'm sure you should, add this to the video also, like, videographic and photographic references to what the house is. And I really like my space, and I'm glad. Again, I just can't thank Hussain Bhai enough to do such a great job. Yeah, so speaking of how we ended up meeting Hussain Bhai and how things turned out to be for the house, I remember Hussain Bhai and Dad talking about what they have to do next, and my dad always being ready with a list on what he wants next and how he wants this corner to look like and how he wants that corner to look like. And I remember Hussain Bhai talking about how he was interested in building relationships and not just the house, and how his motto and his goal served to building a relationship with the person he's working with than just having a relationship of a colleague or an associate. So that's something that's really attracted me to understanding how a person should be in the day-to-day basis also, not just to do with work. So yeah, that's something that's today that I realize is after like 6 or 7 years of getting everything made, that it's important not just to have a relationship with your client as a client and a person who's just very professionally connected, but also a very informal way of building relationships should be important besides everything. I'd give Design Redefine a 10 on 10. If I had 11 on 10, I'd give that as well. As Design Redefined doesn't build houses but resolution.